Hey, how you doing? I hope you can hear me. If you can't hear me, let me know. Um, oh, it feels like it's been a while since. Well, it has been a while since we've done all this kind of stuff. So, Sober Victory, how you doing? Sandeep, Chris, Michelle, how you doing? Iskander and Gypsy Crimson. Um, all right, I've got a couple of questions to answer before we start off. One of them was a couple of tips on starting out on this journey from a psychological perspective or a mental perspective. I think um, one of the first things that you can do is just stop telling yourself, or try not to tell yourself too much, that you can't do this. I think really we've all got sort of obstacles in life, and sometimes it's difficult to find the motivation to go forwards, even though most people come at this from the perspective of a certain amount of pain, a certain amount of mental, sometimes physical pain, but I think mostly mental pain. And, to try and remove as much of the shite talk as much as you can, the stuff that's going on in your head, the narratives. Sometimes it's really how you're. Sorry, we've got a road here beside us, and sometimes there's a few cars going by. So hopefully it doesn't make it too much of a difference. Look for people that can help you out on this. It's the less you can put obstacles in front of your own way, because there's enough obstacles towards this. We were just talking about this with one of our members, that it's difficult sometimes to get past the first few days and weeks and months, because we're so ingrained into this habit over what is a lifetime. I mean, I started drinking when I was 18, and I don't remember much in my life before that. There's brief memories and stuff, but it's only after, when you get into an adult and you're doing different things yourself, that for me anyway, especially, that that I remember my life really started when I was 18, 19. So it's all my life before I stopped, I was drinking. So this is a part of your life. So it's difficult from that perspective, but also from, if you can imagine that it is only a habit, that you're dealing with that habit, and the only way to break down the habit is to not do it day after day after day, and you'll find that it becomes easier within those first few weeks, just to get past that day-to-day stuff. So I hope that makes sense. I had this one as well, from how to set goals earlier on. Don't worry too much about the goals. Goals are something that I think, if you're, especially in the first couple of months, just think about them in a general way. Like, this is something that you're aiming towards. I mean, our whole emphasis is always on moving away from, trying to decompose the habit first, leave the alcohol behind, decompose the habit, and then you turn and face into the future, and what you really want out of life, what you really want to get. The more excited you can get about your goals, the more benefits you'll gain from the journey itself, not just the end goal. I mean, it's not about reaching your goals at the end of the day. It's about living the best possible life that you can live, and getting to that best possible version of yourself. So, all right, let's have a look then. Good to have you back on board, Michelle. do the 5. What's the 5? Do the 5. Let me know what that is. Do the 5. No plans to drink again. Johnny Cola says, how do I deal with mates teasing me, saying go and have a beer? Look, I mean, at the end of the day, it's one of those things that you'll find they'll soon get fed up of it. It's the critics and the people who are teasing you, the ones that are taking the piss, most of them are doing it because they're insecure about themselves. A lot of people, especially if you've been with the same crowd for a long time. I mean, I was kind of lucky when we moved over to Spain in that I'd left a lot of my drinking buddies behind, but we got into another group of people here, mainly because we were watching the same football team together and, meeting up once a week to watch the football once or twice a week, or however long the football lasted. And I mean, all the wisecracks started coming out once I stopped drinking alcohol. But like I said, they soon get fed up of it. Once you stick to your guns and you say, well, this is me now. I'm not going to do it. To be honest with you, when I was going before I stopped drinking, I would go to the pub early. I'd have a couple of pints. Then I'd watch the match and I'd have a good few pints watching the match, and then I'd stay afterwards and have another couple of pints. So I was nearly always the first one in and the last one out. When I stopped drinking, I was the last one in. So we'd come in just before the match started and basically leave just after the match finished. So I wouldn't be there for long. So I hope that answers your question, but it's just time. I mean, it depends on the person as well, Well done, John. Hey, Steve, how you doing? Onwards and upwards, Ben. Papa Spear says, I did 5 weeks and fell off. Now 5 days and trying my hardest. Yeah, it's, just think about this from the perspective of use that 5 weeks as experience. It's one of the toughest things about this whole journey is trying to give yourself the experience of not drinking. Like I say, it's a habit. For most people, that's all it is. And, even for the most people that I coach, they're not drinking during the day. They're not getting up in the morning and drinking. It's normally towards the end of the day after their day's work, drinking in the evenings and, earlier in the day at the weekends. So you do this over and over and over again, and it becomes second nature to you. And it's that discomfort that you feel by not doing it. That's the sort of the thing that you have to get over. So, and it's just one of those things where you have to not do it, do the 5 days sober again. Okay. All right, Michelle. Yeah, I get it now. Yeah. It's, I think sometimes those things can be the biggest motivation to you because, nothing else is going to motivate you more than something in your own life. I mean, reading other people's stories is all good and well, but until you have something in your own life that is that's pushing you with urgency, that urgency specifically to your life is going to help you more than anything else. So, Gypsy, how are you doing? Proud of all just for doing it today, regardless of how often we may have moments. What is awesome is that you're back at it. Exactly. It's a tough journey for most people. I mean, I was reading a comment yesterday. We did a video on cravings, and there was a lady there who was 65 and she was looking after her mother who was 84, 85. But the mother had she had schizophrenia, and she had schizophrenia for, I think it was schizophrenia for most of this lady's adult life. So, when you're dealing with something like that in your life, that's it's tough as well. It's just sometimes you get stuck in your own life and your own journey, and you're seeing things from your own perspective. Yeah. Sober Victory. It's great to know that other people are out there going through similar problems with alcohol. Exactly. Chris CM, 2 years dry, but still pickle. Don't know what's wrong. I'm not the same person after 15 years drinking. No, none of us are. That's part and parcel of this new journey, is discovering who you are. It's one of the things that I try and do all the time is to really see people, or to get people to see that their journey is into that new person that they are. That they're it's impossible to go back to that old person. However much you try, you're a different person, not only because of the alcohol, but because of life. The world is a different place now than it was 15 years ago. In some ways it's a better place. In other ways it's a lot worse. But all we can do is live our own lives and try our best to look at the alcohol journey as not something that you're missing out on. That is something that you've left the poison behind. I mean, I've been doing a lot of reading recently on just alcohol marketing and how much money these people put into it, and if you think back to all your life, all the messages that have been pumped into your brain by not only by the alcohol industry themselves, by cinema, by TV, news, everywhere you go, alcohol is there. If you go into a rehab clinic and your problem is heroin or cocaine or one of those illicit drugs, you can come back out and you can successfully avoid those things. It's just not there. You can avoid the people who are doing it. You can avoid the dealers. You can avoid most of it. With alcohol, that's very difficult. However, it means that once you get out of it, once you get through the first, like I say, the first couple of months is the toughest, and you get that then behind you, and you'll find that the day-to-day living becomes easier. The day-to-day, it becomes easier to get through your days without thinking about alcohol. But there's still work to be done. I mean, life is about trying to build up yourself, and whatever you're trying to do. I mean, I'm still figuring out certain things in my life, and it's 10 years on almost. I'm in my 10th year now, so it's it's I think the fact that you're getting older as well, introduces new challenges to you. You have to rethink certain things, and I like life from that perspective. It's forever changing. It's never boring anyway. My life used to be as boring as fuck. Drinking all the time because you did the same thing, and then you didn't remember, and then your life was my life was sort of going down the tubes, physically, mentally, everything. But then you were drinking, and your brain sort of goes on this level of dampening. You just dampen down your brain, dampen down your thinking, dampen down your ideas about yourself and your own life, and that becomes boring in and of itself. But I can't remember the last time I've been bored in my sober life. Oh, don't use the word sober, but there you go. So I don't know where we were there, 2 years on. So yeah, I mean, it's it can be sometimes a struggle without life, but I always say to myself, I'm never going to regret the alcohol that I didn't drink, or that I'm never regretting the alcohol that I didn't drink last night. Sober Victory, it's great to know that other people are out there. Yeah, it is. Sorry, I've done that one before. Forrest, thanks, Kevin. 12 days in, had 62 days but slipped, and had a few not even close to how it was. Have way more tools. just hard day in and day out, but really trying hard. It is. But it's a journey, mate. It's you really have to look at this like it's a journey. Some people take longer than others to step across the line. Other people take longer, and they take multiple iterations of the same thing. So the main thing is that once you get to a certain point in this, it's almost as if you've burnt your bridges, and it's very difficult to go back. So it's to keep going. 22 months myself, and agree things aren't the same. People, me personally, are still uncovering layers I never knew existed. That's the beauty of it, no? Really is. It's the beauty of living life and uncovering different layers in yourself. It's always used the analogy of an onion, that the outer skin was the alcohol, and then once you peel that back, then there's so many different layers underneath. I found layers of emotion in myself that I didn't uncover for 5 or 6 years after I'd stopped. Amazing that they were coming up then. My friends all drink. It was hard to be the odd man out when I quit drinking, and they continued, at least at first. Now it's no big deal. Yeah, exactly. People just won't. People get tired of this. Something that's new, and you're introducing something that's new to them, and you're changing their view of you. Who they think you are, and all of a sudden you're coming in and going, oh, I'm not drinking anymore. That could be tough for some people, because what it does is it reflects back on them, and they start thinking about their own drinking then. And maybe they haven't got to that stage yet where they want to stop themselves, but they're, every drinker, especially if you're friends with other drinkers, they tend to be on the same level. Hold on. They tend to be on the same level as you. And that means that they're feeling, they're going through the same internals, the same, maybe not the same mental stuff, but it can be difficult for people when other people change, because they're thinking, well, are you going to leave me behind? I always remember a mate of mine in Ireland, when I stopped when we came over to Spain, he said, what am I going to do now? Where's my drinking? And he used to always say to me, I'd love to do that. I said, well, why don't you? Yeah, I've got my girlfriend here. I've got this here. I've got that there. And I saw him the second time I went back to Ireland. I saw this guy, and he looked like shit. And he'd lost his house. He'd lost his girlfriend, and he wasn't going anywhere no more. So, it was sad for me to see that. Depressing. But no worries, mate. Cheers, Eric. No worries. After a month, which takes a lot, my brain romanticizes it and lies to me that I can be a social drinker. I know it's bollocks, but I'm not planning on failing for it now enough after 20 years. Yeah, how many people have the same thing, mate? It's like I said, a lot of people stop this not because of it's the same thing with moderation. We use this thing in the program called moderation cycle, which means that people don't moderate the alcohol, they moderate the pain. You're only moderating because you've got to a certain level where you're thinking, well, I need to do something about this, and it's not the alcohol, it's what it's doing to you, it's the consequences. So that is normally an emotional thing. I mean, most drinking is emotional anyway, but it's an emotional thing. So you moderate the alcohol, whether you cut it out altogether and you don't drink for a while, or you cut it down. I could never cut it down because I didn't see the point in only having 1 or 2 drinks. So I would always not drink for a while, and then not drink for 2 or 3 days, but then I drink more at the weekend. So it wasn't the point. But when I was moderating it, I'd go off it for 2 or 3 weeks maybe, you're trying to moderate the pain. As soon as the pain goes away, then the motivation goes away, and then you're back into the same cycle again. So it's that moderation cycle, and you go round and round and round in this, and each iteration gets worse and worse because you're when you try and moderate and you go back to drinking again, to the old style drinking, or worse, you look at yourself in a different way. You look at yourself as a bit of a failure, and each time you get a bit of a failure, you sort of knock a chip off your self-confidence. That affects you the next time you come around to it, and you go, well, yeah, I didn't make it the last time, or I didn't make it the last 10 times I tried to do this, so what makes me think I can do it now, So, like I say, that romanticization that you're talking about, that comes around with the loss of motivation. Once your motivation is gone, then the narrative starts to come back in. Sure, 1 or 2 pints would be grand. No problem with that, Sitting on the balcony with a glass of wine, watching the sun go down. Like I say, and the marketing piles in, and is convincing, because the marketing, the only people that the marketing are after are the heavy drinkers, because they're 50% of the alcohol is sold to heavy drinkers, and the youth, kids. They're the only people that the marketers, the alcohol marketers, really go after. So, it's to keep people drinking, and like any drug dealer, to start people coming in that door. The younger you can get people into this, the easier it is to keep them in the long term. Yeah, still figuring out. Well, figuring out life. It's not just. Everyone goes through this, Gypsy. It's not just me. It's and it's nothing to do with the alcohol. For me, the alcohol is left behind. As soon as you stop and you say to yourself, "Well, I'm stopping," then that's the time when you leave. The alcohol is not the problem anymore. It's changing your life and changing your mind and changing the way that you think. That's the problem, and that's the problem that keeps people going backwards, because they don't know how to move forwards without the crutch or without the escape mechanism. Think about alcohol as just a tool in order to, like one of these things that you can open up this hatch in the ground and climb into it and pull it over, cover yourself up with life, and then you don't have to look at life for a little while. Without alcohol, you don't have that. You see a lot of people trying to find another drug. A lot of people will stop drinking, but they'll start using marijuana, or they'll start using something else to look for psychedelics or something like that, mostly marijuana. But, my camera's gone really, there we go. So yeah, it's figuring out that you don't need any of these safety blankets. You don't need a crutch to get into life, or your crutches can be, for me, going out walking, it's been just a huge thing for me to bring me back down to a level mind. And the more you work on yourself, the more you get into that contented state, like a flow state. But it's, you're in general in this, you have little ups and you have little downs. Sometimes you have a big up and sometimes you have a big down, but it's not like anything like the alcohol up and down. When I was drinking, I had so much, 1 step forwards, 2 steps back. That was my life. Could describe my life in every detail, emotionally, intellectually, everything. There was just no moving forwards, because I had this crutch, but it was something that was like, best way to describe it is just a black hole, that it was sucking everything else in my life into it. Not the alcohol, but the habit, that instant gratification habit, where you're as soon as there's a problem, you're looking for an escape. As soon as there's the sun is shining, you're looking for the high. As soon as the the sun is not shining, it's pissing down rain, you're looking for something to console you, you know. So there's all these emotional imbalances that are happening in your life. A lot of the time, you know, whatever's happening in your brain under alcohol or under any of those drugs, it hijacks the pleasure centers. It hijacks a lot of these. It means that the natural way that your body and your mind react to life, just that doesn't work anymore. You know, the dopamine levels or the serotonin or whatever it is. I mean, I'm not too much into that because it doesn't really matter. You know, it's something that I can't see that. I mean, I'm much better off looking at it from the perspective of happiness, sadness. So, you know, I used alcohol to lift me up, to try and give me happiness, and also to avert and try and push down sadness or any negative emotions, trying to lift up the positive emotions, push down the negative emotions. And the more you do that, the more you become reliant on the alcohol or the drug or whatever it is that you're using. And that's when you take that out then of your life, it becomes difficult because all of this balancing inside your brain is all screwed up. And it takes a while before that starts to rebalance itself. That's from a physical perspective. Now you're also looking at it from a psychological perspective in terms of who are you? You know, if you live your life and you say to yourself, well, I'm this person. I'm a wine drinker, or I'm a beer drinker, I'm a Guinness drinker was my thing. When we came over to Spain, it was I'm a wine drinker. You know, it's just, you start asking yourself, well, who am I? And that who you are is something that is you have to develop yourself, you know. And sometimes you feel lost, and it takes a while. And it's not like, you know, you're this one individual person. You find one thing, and then you're on the path. You're so many different things. You know, we talk about 12 categories on V2. It's like you've got the category of you as a son or a daughter, you as a parent, you as a friend, you as a worker and a colleague. So your career, your who you think you are in terms of your health, in terms of your wealth, in terms of what you do for hobbies. All of these things are part and parcel of that core individual that you think you are, and that all changes. Everything changes. You know, you'll find that alcohol, like I said, it becomes like the behavior becomes like a black hole. So it's all revolving around this one thing. So your core self, once you take the alcohol out, there's so many little voids that are left there, and you know you don't see this all at once. But you know, I think the pain at the beginning is more in the sense of you feel that there is a big gap missing, but as you move through this journey, you'll find that there's a lot of little gaps missing that you have to fill in. And those little gaps necessitate you sitting down and really thinking about things and digging down into yourself. And that can be a difficult process because it's painful. You know, some of that is painful. Some of it is you'll find things and you go, Jesus, I didn't think of that before. I haven't thought about that in years. Or I haven't thought about myself in that way in years. And some of it is uplifting, and you'll find that in yourself, and that's good. The painful parts are good as well, because you know you're lifting things up that are repressed and shouldn't be repressed, that need to be lifted up and to be thought out and thought through. But it's only when you do that work on yourself, and that's the difficult part. You know, if you don't know where you're going. You know, it's like we were talking earlier on about the goal. The goal is to try and live that best possible version of yourself. That I chose that as my own goal because it's so broad, and you can work on little bits of it every day as you're moving forwards. You know, if I can improve myself a tiny little bit, every day, sometimes unnoticeable amounts of improvements, but it all adds up. It's the same thing as in the opposite direction. When you drink, you don't notice you might notice the hangover in the next day, but you eventually get over that. But it's that accumulation of doing the same thing over and over again. It's the accumulation of the damage, physical, mental damage that you go through. It's the accumulation of damage to other people in your life, to the surrounding things, that narrowing of things in your life. That's what really does the damage, and that's what you're trying to escape from. Trying to escape from a black hole is supposed to be really difficult. But anyway, alcohol strips away every layer of dignity and self-respect, ironically. Yeah. I mean, don't think about it from the perspective of the alcohol. Think about it from the perspective of the behavior, because as I say, the alcohol, you can take the alcohol out and you can switch it out with cocaine or heroin or porn or gambling, and it's the instant gratification mindset. I need to do this now, and I need to get a fix now, instead of suffering the little bit of discomfort and putting off until later on. Whoa, that was a loud one. We get a lot, I don't know, motorcycle gangs here, alphaless, 50 and 60-year-old blokes going around on these bikes acting like kids. Sorry, that's a pet peeve of mine. All right, Gypsy, even more ironically, as I drank for many reasons, one being I felt I didn't deserve self-respect. I'd love to start with, like how you put this. Yeah, it's that's one of the biggest problems, I think, of this kind of thinking, is you've always got this conflict inside your brain that it's wrong. Your body knows it's wrong on an instinctual level. You put the alcohol in, and all your body wants to do is get rid of it straight away. It sees it as nothing else but a toxin. But we're trying to convince ourselves, because of all the messages that we're getting from growing up in our society, in our families, maybe, definitely with the marketing messages, that alcohol is a good thing. It's normal to do this, and there's something wrong with us, But we know when you put it in, every time when you first start drinking and your body vomits up the alcohol, your body's telling you something. When it gives you that first hangover, or you've got any negative feeling from the alcohol, from the toxins, your body is telling you something. And it's we know it's bad for us from that level. And so we've got this conflict then of we have to tell ourselves that no, it's not really that bad. Everyone's doing it, and it's just if we can cut back on things. But then gradually the consequences become worse and worse and worse, and your opinion of yourself goes down, because even though you're trying to tell yourself that you're intelligent, that you're not stupid, but at the same time you've got this sort of like a double the Jekyll and Hyde complex, that kind of thing. So that's one of the best things about stopping drinking alcohol, is that conflict is there with you all the time, and it never leaves you once you're drinking. And once you get to that stage where you're stopping, now that might come after a month, it might come straight away when you stop. For most people, it doesn't. It comes 2, 3, 4, 5 months into it. For me, it was around 6, 7 months when I knew I was never going to drink again. Right? After that, I still had moments when I was like, yeah, this is a shit day. I wish I could have a drink. But then that would disappear really quickly. It wasn't something that stayed around, that I knew I wasn't going to drink no matter what happened. And once I had that feeling and that knowledge that I wasn't going to drink again, there was a lifting of a weight from my shoulders that was unlike anything that I'd experienced before. And it was really something that was, you only notice the burden a lot of the time once it's been lifted. I do punish myself for not being good enough. Well, it's all part of that same journey, Chris. It's part of that same thing where, like I said, it's easy to not punish yourself when you're drinking, because you can forget about all those things and you can laugh, and you can, most of the time when I was drinking, I wasn't laughing. I was pretending to laugh. It's like one of those, you forget what it is to truly be happy and to truly laugh and to truly have a good time, because that's what you're used to. For me, like I say, everything revolved around alcohol. So going out in the evening revolved around alcohol. If I was going to the restaurant, it was never about the food. It was always about the drink. Going on vacations was never about the holidays. It was always about, I could drink. I could start drinking earlier, and I didn't have to get up in the morning, so I didn't have to worry about the hangover, any of those things. Going to a wedding or a funeral, going to a funeral where you were, I remember going to my mum's funeral, and afterwards, this is something that happens a lot in Irish culture, I suppose, in Italian culture as well. I've seen it in Spanish, where people just get drunk and they're, I suppose, it's a release of the pressure of grief, I suppose, from one perspective. But from another perspective, it was that thing where I couldn't wait to get to the bar and to have a few drinks. So, everything revolves around that then. So the narrative, that's a great way of putting it. Yeah, it's just the stories, whatever way you want to put this. I'm just having some tea here. If you want tea that's going to calm you down, chamomile tea. Or in the evening, a good one is valerian root. Valerian. Hey, Jennifer. Fight the fears that sobriety won't last long term. Again, it's one of those things that you start out, you have to start out from day 1 and day 2 and day 3 and get through those days in terms of, don't even think about long term. Don't think about, I'm never going to stop. I'm never going to start drinking again. For me, we always encourage people to take the first 30 days, but not, there's a difference between taking the first 30 days as if you're not going to drink again, as if you're going to go into that second 30 days, and taking just a dry month. So let's say if you say to yourself, well, I'm only going to stop for January, dry January, you're going to start drinking again. So the experience is completely different, because you're counting down the days to the day that you're going to start drinking. When you stop drinking and you have that commitment to yourself that you're not going to poison yourself again, that you're going to get rid of this poison out of your life, you're going to have that responsibility of not doing it again, and you're saying to yourself, right, I'm going to get to day 30, and then once I get to day 26, 27, then I'm going to start thinking about the next 30 days, and you have that in your mind, but you're not burdening yourself with never drinking again. That's a scary thought. Then it becomes a different part of the journey. So you're counting the days forwards instead of counting the days down, if you get what I mean. So, but like I say, it's all part of the journey, is to your as you allow your brain to detoxify, you're much more capable of thinking clearer. And that can really help you then to get the next day in, and the next day in, and the next day in. And that's all you have to do in the first, think about that for the first 2 or 3 months, is just getting through that next day. And by the time, I guarantee you that you get to the first month, you'll be thinking about things in terms of, right, just do this another week. We'll get another week down. And then you'll start thinking about things in terms of, another month down, and then you'll start thinking about things in terms of when was the last time I thought about alcohol? I don't need to count the days now, or it's just like that. It's a progression. I used you before and failed, Joan, but I doubt you'll remember. I do. I'm feeling more resolute and would like to try again. I'm not all that computer orientated, but I'm going to get lessons. I was impressed with you before and would like to try again. Yeah, listen, just get in contact with Esther. Her email address is ses@habitsunplugged.com, and she'll help you out with anything you need to re-sign back up. And if you have my email address anywhere, or she'll forward me any stuff that you have if you've got any questions or anything like that. So T.O. soon I'm attending a reunion with uni mates I haven't seen in years. Our bond at uni was formed through a shared hobby of drinking, partying. So I fear I'll feel like an outsider that I don't drink. I mean, doesn't everyone, once you go back to those class reunions, doesn't everyone feel like an outsider to a certain degree? It's a strange one. I wouldn't let that. Look, you have to think about yourself. Think about your own health. Think about where you're going to be in 5 years' time. Doesn't make any difference. About moments like that, they're going to disappear. You'll go there and you'll come back home, think about the next day, there's a close family member who's finally opening up about the hurt I caused after 22 months because they wanted me to be okay to talk to fix. Both tips to squash this new batch of all guilt. It's a difficult one. I don't, a lot of the time I don't feel guilty about things that I've done in the past because a lot of the people that I were with, it was a give and take sort of a thing. And there was a lot of mutual, I think it's becomes a mutual destruction society when you're, like I said, all my friends all drank on the same level. My wife, she drank on the same level. She's gone now, so there's no saying sorry to anything. For me, it's when you're apologizing to people, apologize if you need to. I think the biggest apology that you can ever give to anybody is by changing the person that you are. Everyone's got skeletons in their closet. Everyone's got things that they feel guilty about. We did a video of this yesterday that, the guilt that you have for yesterday, there's no point in keeping it today because it's like a punishment that you're revisiting on yourself. And that just doesn't do you any good. It doesn't do anyone else any good. What's done is done for the most part in life. It's just, people that need my apology can just go, fuck, it's just not something that I do. It's people that I've harmed in the past, they know that I'm sorry. They know that's I'm changed. But like I said, there's very few people that I care about enough to feel that way, to carry any guilt. My son is the biggest person that and that's something that I work on all the time. And that's enough for me. I don't know whether that's a male thing or, I don't know. It's just something that I think it's a destructive force that if you carry it inside yourself and you keep doing it, you keep bringing it up, or other people bring it up. If other people bring shit up that I've done in the past, it's like I'm not interested in listening to that. It's like, get on with things. So what? Things are, life is tough enough. Without revisiting shit that you've done in the past. So Yeah. Although we've just done that one. I've been in hospital to have my appendix out, and I've stopped drinking for nearly a week. Fair play, Joan. Well done. Hey, Jose. Just stopping by to say hello, Kevin. Hope the move went smoothly. Yeah, it went really good. We were knackered for, really tired for it. It's one of those things. I think it's the hardest thing that I've done since I stopped drinking, to be honest. It was just really tough. Moving to a different country and everything that, they speak Catalan up here. So we've been learning Spanish, and you can get away with Spanish up here, so it's not too bad. But just moving into this is a really small country. It's very libertarian in certain ways, but then because it's a small country, you've got a sort of a very tight-knit bureaucracy that you have to fill out this form for this and that form for that. The dogs have got to have this thing and that thing, and just a nightmare. But everything's done now, and we're settled in, and yeah, it's brilliant. So yeah, thanks. My liver enzyme levels were all over the place, and I got scared during my last checkup. Don't let your drinking come to this point. Yeah, to be honest, I didn't get my liver checked at all when I stopped. I got my liver checked last year just before we moved up here, and I had fatty liver. So, I always knew there was damage there, but there's a lot you can do in your own life to change this with diet and exercise, and just changing those things, changing the stress in life. There's a lot of crap going on in the world now at the moment, but there's ways that you can avoid all of this stuff. Most of the stuff that's going on, unless it's really affecting you. And I think to a certain degree, your levels of stress can be that can affect you physically. It can affect those things like your liver. Hey, Big G. I fear bereavement. A close family member would seriously put me under a huge pressure to self-destruct. Family member said to me, when I die, don't start drinking. Yeah, when my dad died, first thing my sister said to me was, don't start drinking. That was a concern, but that's a concern of other people, so I wouldn't worry about that. Like I said, I drank when my mom died, and that was terrible. It was just a horrible. I drank when my wife died. She's gone now since 2004, so Jesus, 18 years. And that was that took me years to get over. Years. Because you're not dealing with anything. You're pushing it down again. It's those emotions that you're pushing down. Not a good thing. I drank when my mum died, the same thing, and not dealing with these things. My dad died when I was sober, and it was such an easier thing to deal with, an easier time to deal with. I mean, he was older, and we had, it was different circumstances, but you process things on a different level when you're sober, when your brain is not fucked up with alcohol. So yeah, I mean, it's that kind of thing is again, we're going back to the narrative, to the stories that you're telling yourself. Why is this camera doing that? You're going back to the stories that you're telling yourself. If you tell yourself in your head that things are going to be more difficult, and I know it's not that easy. It takes practice, but this is all about practice. Like I said at the beginning, you're building a new life for yourself. You're building a new version of yourself. That's why we call Habits V2 is the second version of who you are. This is a chance to build yourself from the bottom up, from scratch. basically. I mean, you've got a lot of stuff that becomes who you are is who you are. Your personality is your personality. But there's so many different things that you can change and deliberately change. That you have a hand in moving forwards, slowly but surely, and that's how it goes. I'm glad that, Gypsy. I think it's the same thing as when one of the biggest questions, the most frequent questions that we get is, how do I help somebody else? A mother trying to help her son, or a father trying to help his son, or a son or a daughter trying to help their parent, or somebody trying to help their friend who's got a drinking problem. And it's like, there's nothing you will ever say that can have as much and as deep an impact on the things that you do. And you have to have a lot of patience with it, because this is something that you do is not going to have an impact overnight, but it will have an impact in the long run, and hopefully a good impact. But that's not in your power. You can't affect other people's the way that they see you or the way that they see themselves. It's not your job. Your job really is to it's part of trying to be the best possible version of yourself, that you accept that about yourself, that the only person that you can control is you, that the only life that you can control is your own. And that also entails thinking about other people, even the people that you care about the most, that their life is their life. And if they choose to do something in their life that is destructive for them, then that is their choice. That's a tough one, but it's an essential part of being a healthy person yourself. And hopefully what you're trying to think from that perspective is that you is trying to be the model, the role model that you want to be, the good role model. That was one of my problems when I stopped drinking alcohol. One of the things that stopped me from drinking alcohol more than it was because I knew that the model that I was passing on to my son was the wrong role model. It was as a drinker, and I didn't want to do that anymore. So now it's just been the opposite way. I'm trying to really bring myself into it's the best inheritance that you can give to your children is that strength of character, the knowledge of the simple things in life, health, wellness, self-esteem, that your self-esteem is based around not what other people think about you, but what you think about yourself. Self-confidence, same thing. All of those things, if you can pass them down, that is way more valuable than any fucking bank account, because you can hand down £1 million nowadays, and how much is that going to be worth in 10 years, 20 years? So that's life. All right, guys, I know there's a lot more now to go, but we'll do this again maybe next week. I've got a couple of coaching clients now, so I've got to sort of go. But thank you very much for everyone that's turned up. I really appreciate all your questions and all your comments. So I hope you have a great weekend. Enjoy your weekend. Keep the alcohol out of your mouth. You know where we are if you want any help for anything. We're habitsv2.com. Take care of yourself. Onwards and upwards. All right. Bye now.